Welcome to Fantasia, home the melodious. My name's Azallea, and today gonna be bringing you guys another post-duel commentary. Now this time, gonna be playing with my SPYRAL Lyrilusc deck. Okay, so jumping right in and looking at this opening hand, it is actually phenomenal. I have the Max C to get potentially some few draws, especially because my opponent's going first. And I have 2 copies of Terraforming, which means I can grab 2 SPYRAL Resorts, which in turn can grab me 2 Searches. And because I already have the drone in my hand, I can go and add a Quick Fix and a Super Agent. Now my opponent's playing with the new Amazoness support, and this is the first duel that I've had against this deck, so I wasn't really familiar with it at all. But anyway, he summons the Amazoness Princess, which allows him to grab a search for a Amazoness spell or trap card, and then he summons the Amazoness Pet Baby Tiger from his hand, putting another body on the field, which is actually pretty good. Amazoness Call is another searcher for the deck, or it can act as a Foolish Burial, but of course you're going to want to search, right? And he searches out the Amazoness Ambush. Now this card scared me a little bit, because it had 3 pretty good effects. So during the battle phase, he can actually special summon 1 Amazoness monster from his hand, and then it gains 500 attack until the end of the turn. Now the effect that scared me was if an Amazoness monster you control battles an opponent's monster, after damage calculation you can banish that opponent's monster. So if he crashes with one of his Amazoness monsters into like my SPYRAL Super Agent, which is a pretty important card in the deck, acts as like a pseudo boss monster, then it get banished, and that would be terrible. Of course I have multiple copies, but I usually only go through 1 or 2 in a duel. Getting access to the third is really rare, because normally you don't have Resort up for that long, because your opponent tries to destroy it as soon as possible, Resort being an absolutely phenomenal field spell. As you can see right now, using it to search out the SPYRAL Super Agent, and because it's not once per turn, terraforming for the other one, and then using the second resort and searching out for the Quick Fix. Now, search for the Super Agent first, because it's really essential to what I'm about to do, which is try to pop that Amazoness Ambush, because that card is a little scary, like I've been saying. I do not want my cards banished. So anyway, instead of summoning the Quick Fix, I summon the drone, because Quick Fix would search for Big Red or whatever, and I already have a Big Red in my hand, so not too important right here. I also have a way to get it to the graveyard with 1-for-1, so if I do summon the Super Agent, Quick Fix can bring itself back by just discarding a card from my hand. So no worries there, I still have access to that. But drone, the only way I can really get to it is by normal summoning it. So use it, normal summon, stack my opponent's deck. I put the Parapara Cerberus on top because useless card to draw into, and then I put the Amazoness Princess as the 3rd card, so that he cannot be getting searches and all that stuff. So I know that the next 2 draws are potentially dead for my opponent, so it's really good for me. I use SPYRAL Super Agent's effect to summon it from my hand, and then I pop one of his back row, hoping it was going to be an Amazoness Ambush, but hit the Swords of Concealing Light instead. Still not too bad, because Swords of Concealing Light, of course, can bypass cards like Independent Nightingale, or Assemble Nightingale, sorry. And yeah, so now I'm fairly certain that the last card that he has set is not going to be a Solemn Strike or a Warning or anything, because if it was, he probably would have used it on my Super Agent. But anyway, I'm pretty certain that this summon will go through, so I go for the Sylvan Princess Sprite. And Princess Sprite will be able to excavate the top card of my deck. If it's a spell trap card, I get to add it to my hand. If it's a monster, it gets sent to the grave, and no worries. If it's something essential, I can always shuffle it back with my SPYRAL Resort. But I get extremely lucky, and I get that Machine Duplication. Now, the problem is I have that Quick Fix in my hand, and I want a way to get it onto the field so I can use Machine Duplication on it. Now here, 1-for-1, I'm able to summon something from my deck, and normally I'd go for a Glow Bulb so I can go for a Naturia Beast, but because I know I'm stacking so many cards on my opponent's deck and they're all monsters, and it just didn't seem like the right option. So I go for the Lyrilusc Cobalt Sparrow, because Cobalt Sparrow get to search a Winged Beast, level 1 Winged Beast monster from my deck to my hand. And that's great, because my Quick Fix needs discard fodder, and I don't really want to discard the Machine Duplication, and I want to keep this Big Red in my hand, because Big Red, of course, monster reborns for the SPYRAL archetype. So Lyrilusc is helping me generate that advantage, free advantage that I can just throw away for that Quick Fix. And Quick Fix is going to search out that SPYRAL Gear fully armed. Now, fully armed allows me to banish things that I destroy by battle with my Super Agent, and then 1 additional card on the field that my opponent controls. So unfortunately I can't get both of my quick fixes out with this machine duplication, but it actually doesn't really matter because of course, as you know, Big Red is going to be a hard once per turn effect where you can only activate one of them per turn, and then the drone I don't really need because I've already stacked my opponent's deck and I've already normal summoned this turn. So yeah, pretty much gonna be useless in the hand. So one search is all I really needed. Here I go for the Assemble Nightingale, and I put 3 materials under her just so I can attack for some extra damage, because I know that I'm gonna probably have to rely on her for a little bit because of the fact that my opponent has that Amazoness Ambush. I do not want my cards to get banished, but I am willing to sacrifice a Sylvan Princess Sprite because I have another one in my extra deck. And if that one in my extra deck does get destroyed somehow in the future, I can always shuffle it back with my Spiral Resort back to my extra deck so I can use in future turns. So I attack with the Princess Sprite, and then he activates his Ambush and summons that Amazoness Princess from his hand, so ruins my stacking of his deck, and then gets an Amazoness Call, which of course can allow him to search additional cards, which is really good for him, because to bypass the stacking of that Paraperil Cerberus on the top of his deck. So yeah, anyway, now I do not want to actually continue the battle because, you know, I have the option not to since there's a monster that was added to the field. So instead, I'm just going to poke him directly for some damage, because if I can avoid it, I'm not going to just crash my Princess Sprite. A few hundred damage to my opponent is not worth having my monster get banished over. And yeah, so just gonna keep my monsters on the field and just leave it at that after poking with the Assemble Nightingale. Now, the reason why I equipped the fully armed to my Spiral Super Agent is I'm actually not going to attack using my Super Agent this turn because one, fully armed activates after the opponent's monster gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard, which means that happens after damage calculation. So because of that, the Amazoness Ambush will actually be able to resolve first because it activates during or after damage calculation. So then it will banish my Spiral Super Agent, and then fully armed would be sent to the graveyard, and then I'd have nothing, right? Its effect comes afterwards. So because of that, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to keep my monster 2900 attack. My opponent's probably not going to be getting over it unless they crash into it, I guess, and that's completely fine with me because then that means they're losing life points on their own battle phase, and they're going to be losing their own monsters at their own will, so that's completely fine by me. Now, he goes ahead and gets the Amazoness Village, and that's actually pretty good because it gains, all Amazoness monsters gain 200 attack, and then once per turn, if an Amazoness monster is destroyed the battle, he gets a special summon one from his deck. Now, unfortunately, my opponent has the Raigeki, so it was lucky for me that I had the Assembled Nightingale, protecting my life points and protecting herself from destruction. And the fully armed coming in here, acting as a monster reborn for my Super Agent, and that was just absolutely amazing because now I can pop that Amazoness Ambush. And as you can see from the graveyard, he had no Amazoness monsters in his graveyard, so the third effect of Ambush could not happen, bringing something back. Now this was really unexpected. My opponent was using the Hex Sealed Fusion, the Earth one, and he used that instead of, using Polymerization and all that. The Hex Sealed Fusion is actually a pretty good option that I never considered for this deck. And bringing out the new boss monster for the deck, Amazoness Empress. Other Amazoness cards that my opponent controls cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effect, so blanket protection is always good, although they're still vulnerable to targeting. And then yeah, if it leaves the field or is destroyed or whatnot, he can summon an Amazoness Queen from his deck, and that's completely fine with me because she's not too much of a threat. So yeah, anyway, my opponent gets to bring back that Amazoness Pet Baby Tiger for free back onto the side of the field, which is pretty good, and then he overlays 2 of his princesses for a Grand Pulse, and Grand Pulse uses effect to destroy my Spiral Resort. Actually a very, very smart move on his part because Resort, of course, would have allowed me to just get more free searches later. He made a little misplay here, banishing that Amazoness Call for his Amazoness Empress, so it can attack each of my monsters once each. And unfortunately for him, I'm not taking any damage thanks to Assemble Nightingale's effect, and Assemble Nightingale cannot be destroyed at battle due to her own effect as well. So, yeah, pretty set in that department. So, yeah, anyway, draw into the Turbo Booster, and since I have nothing to normal summon, I can't really special summon it from my hand just for free with its own effect. So I'm looking in my graveyard and thinking about my line of play. Now, what I can obviously do is bring back that Super Agent and destroy his field spell, and because Super Agent's on the field, Quick Fix can actually be revived through through his own effect by discarding one of my cards in my hand. So I think that was the best option to go for because it just allowed me to put more bodies on the field for less cards. If I just went for the big red and brought back the quick fix and normal summon the turbo booster, I can only make a rank 1. But here, if I bring back the super agent, I can destroy something. I can always discard the turbo booster from my quick fix, and then quick fix and search for a drone. I can stack him deck, putting him back a turn or 2, and then go for a rank 1 there. So it puts an additional body on my side of the field as well as a rank 1 monster. So of course I'm going to go for that option. So use the Spiral quick fix effect in the graveyard and then summon it. And then I can go for a search. Of course, since I already had the big red in my hand and I used one this turn, there's no reason to search for another one. And since I haven't normal summoned at all, I'm gonna grab the drone. And drone, of course, as I explained earlier, will stack my opponent's deck, and I get free information about what they're playing. So fusion recovery, not a problem if my opponent draws into it, because there's no polymerization in their graveyard, so they can't activate it. Amazoness Fighting Spirit was a weird card. My opponent probably wasn't playing the best build of Amazoness, because that's not the best card, or at least it doesn't look like it's the best card to be running. But, you know, he's been playing pretty well so far, so yeah. Anyway, stack my opponent's deck, and I know they're all spell cards. I put the most useless ones on the top because, you know, they'll be dead draws. And now I can go and try to overlay into my either a Sylvan Princess Sprite or a Ghost Trick Dullahan. So Princess Sprite can get me some additional cards, but I wanted to get rid of that Amazoness Empress, and since I've already used my fully armed, my super agent doesn't really have a means to attack over it unless I go for the Ghost Trick Dullahan. Now Dullahan will be able to have my opponent's attack until the end of the turn, so that will allow my super agent to run over his Empress. And that's always going to be really nice. Now my opponent does have a Grand Pulse, but again, since the cool thing about Big Red is that if Big Red gets destroyed, the monster attached to it does not get destroyed with it. So that's always pretty cool, and so my super agent's pretty much going to be safe. Now, Super Agent goes and attacks the Amazoness Empress, and I can destroy it and inflict some damage to my opponent. It seems like my opponent wasn't playing Amazoness Queen because didn't summon it from the deck, so that was completely fine with me. Destroy the Amazoness Pet Baby Tiger so that, you know, he can't potentially use it for more fusion materials and stuff and keep bringing it back and looping and all that. And then attack directly with my Assembled Nightingale. Of course, because I can't attack over that Grand Pulse. Now, the problem here is that Dullahan only has the attack of my opponent's monsters. It can't have the defense point. So if my opponent puts that Grand Pulse into defense mode, I'm actually going to be pretty hard pressed to get rid of it. It's going to be a problem. But here, my opponent, I believe, made a misplay and used Grand Pulse's effect to destroy that big red, which he didn't really need to do because all it did was grant my super agent immunity to destruction by battle, right? I believe my opponent should have attacked into my Assembled Nightingale with his Grand Pulse, force out one of my materials, and yeah, and then, or what he could have done was just put it into defense mode, because that way my super agent couldn't attack over it, and I'd really have no outs, but he didn't, and I believe that was his misplay there, because I think he got a little flustered after he destroyed my big red and saw that my super agent didn't die along with it, because most of the time, if an equipped card like big red, something that revives from the graveyard, gets destroyed, the monster attached to it gets destroyed as well. So yeah, I draw into a dead machine duplication, but nothing's dead if you have a super agent on the field and a quick fix engrave. So I use quick fix's effect, bring itself back, and I was gonna go search for a drone, or I could have actually searched for a big red, and then big red could activate and grab a drone from my graveyard. But anyway, yeah, it would have made a rank 1 play, and then that would have been enough damage for game, I believe. So anyway, that does it for today. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Spiral Lyrical Lucinia content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.